Good morning. It is June 21st, 2022, and I guess tomorrow is the full moon. And I definitely feel it. And this time of year, people in northern states like Maine tend to kind of stay up later. Your body clock gets up because the sun all of a sudden is setting at 8 something at night, and it's creeping up and getting light at 4 something in the morning. And so we're not birds, but people tend to wake up when it gets light out and go to bed when it gets dark, unless there's a full moon hanging around somewhere. And then you're like, what? You want me to sleep now? No. But I do these cooking projects for stress relief because it's something I know how to do. My sister taught me how to make chocolate chip cookies when I was a little girl over in Winthrop. We lived in an old farmhouse, and it was really run down, and my dad had to go to many banks to get a home improvement loan because when we moved in November in Maine, and it was a lot colder back then in November, there was no indoor plumbing. There was a kitchen sink, but there were no bathrooms in that house and no furnace that worked. The old furnace, my dad had to get it taken out, and it was full of rats and mice in the basement. And here's my mother, a very neat and tidy lady from Maine, and with 5 kids, that she had 5 kids within 7 years, moving into this old rundown farmhouse with 7 layers of wallpaper that had to be scraped and no bathrooms, and all these kids, and all there was an outhouse in an L, and an L is an L-shaped building, it's spelled E-L-L, that connects the house and the barn, so you don't have to walk outside in the winter there. And they had all these rooms off with these big, big sliding doors with the chains, like in a barn, because that's what it was. And it had been owned by Rutilius Alden, a direct descendant of John and Priscilla Alden from, the Pilgrim times, the Mayflower stuff. And we have a Mayflower ancestor, but ours is the Warren, Richard Warren. And I think his claim to fame was he's the only one who brought his own bed with him, and everybody else had to get one made or make their own. And he came ahead of his wife and children. I think her name was Anne. I can't remember it. I looked it up. It's on Wikipedia. You can look up all the Mayflower people and see who's descended from them, like famous people, like the Bushes are descended from one, and we're descended from the other. And my friend is a Smith, and I have Smith in my background. I mean, so it's a small area geographically. So a lot of people are kind of peripherally related to each other, or have ancestors who were way, way back. So we have this kind of commonality. But most of us are down-to-earth kind of country people. We grew up near farms, and I used to go up and help call the cows in. We'd be like, come boscom, come boscom. And you do that around here, and everybody has their own cow call. Here, bossy, bossy, or whatever. And so we could stand around at the farm stand or this grocery store talking about cow calling, or, oh my God, cucumbers are 99 cents. I'm not paying that, dude. And sometimes I'll have trouble getting over at my Hannaford, which is the big chain here, I'll have trouble getting over to the produce section because there'll be a group of people standing around talking. I'll be like, fine. I'm like, dear, I got to get through here and get my peppers. Oh yeah, sure, go on right ahead. And then they'll just keep on yakking away, or they'll be blocking the aisle or back by the milk because there's a place there. They stand around. Hey, what you doing there? I haven't seen you in there. Blah, 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 blah. It's just because it's a rural area. So when they meet, whether it's at a McDonald's or a diner or a grocery store, they're going to catch up with each other. Except in the summer when the tourists flood into the lakes region, and everybody's like, oh man, my store's all crowded. I can't find a parking spot. And throwing the mask on because it's crowded. And there's a lot of people here who do not wear masks. And I read that people who have eyeglasses are less likely to get COVID because it can get into your eyes, which are wet. You ever had a kid with pink eye? You ever have a sty? You ever have anything wrong with your eye? You know, little kids touch their eyes all the time. Thank goodness they're getting a vaccine for them, because I don't care how many masks you put on a group of kindergartners, they're all going to be touching their noses and their eyes and everything, and becoming little disease vectors. You know that every October the flu goes around, the janitors are probably like, oh God, I gotta wipe up puke all day long. No. And I used to give my kids this stuff. It was salt and cayenne pepper, and you pour boiling water or chamomile tea over it, about a cup, and use a tremendous amount of salt and cayenne. It was like 3 tablespoons each from some herbal remedy book. And you let that sit and you stir it up, and then you put it in a glass bottle. You use an old Bailey's Irish cream bottle, and top it off with apple cider vinegar, and then you just shake it up and put it in the fridge. And so it's at least another cup. So you got a cup of water plus a cup of apple cider vinegar or more. And then, because you don't want to drink apple cider vinegar by itself. Ever try taking a shot of vinegar? It's going to burn and make you have trouble breathing, dear. Don't do that. But I used to put it on a spoon or a little shot glass and give it to the kids every fall when the flu was going around. Say, chug this, just a little bit, because it's diluted with water. And they would, and they got used to the taste. It's kind of similar to my mama cutting up cucumber and putting it in a bowl with a little salt and putting either white or apple cider vinegar on top and setting that bowl out on the table. So if we came in when she was making supper, Mama, I'm hungry. There's your cucumber and vinegar right there. Have a snack. And we did. And she was wonderful to us when we were children. And she, we had a raspberry patch over there in Winthrop. And we'd go out and pick them. And you'd get the one that had been pecked at by a bird. And they were taller than I was. I was little. And I'd be whipping, and we'd be whipping them at each other. Bird peck! We could hit each other with these rotted raspberries. And we'd go in and bring them to Mama. And she made a pie once. And she opened the oven door to pull the pie out. And it slipped and it fell upside down on the oven door, the hot oven door. Oh no. And speaking of pies, the first time I made a pie, my mom was at work. She was working part-time at a fabric store because she sewed. And I said, Dad, am I supposed to peel the apples before I make a pie? And he goes, I don't know. And I'm like, I don't either. It doesn't tell me in the book. It just says 6 to 8 apples. Because we didn't have the internet back then, dear. So I didn't peel them because I thought, well, maybe they'll melt. And they tasted it and they go, my mom was like, Jennifer, why didn't you peel the apples? I'm like, I don't know. Because nobody could tell me. And so you live and learn, right, when you're cooking. And my grandmother Crowley, we called her Nummy, her first apple pie, she forgot to put the sugar in. And her father, William Fremont Pratt, up in Macwahock Plantation area, Wittapitlock area, was a farmer. And the Pratts actually came from this area. And they were farmers all over here. And there was a great migration north. And they went through Macwahock, where one of them had already settled, and stayed with them for a little bit. Then they went up to Caribou. And some of them came back down here. And so these Pratts are everywhere. And I think the Pratts originally, my Pratts came from like Yarmouth area. And the rumor in the book is that there was 2 Pratt adults and their son, Arthur. And all of a sudden there was a 20-year younger baby than Arthur called Artson, A-R-T-S-O-N. And the distant cousin of mine that wrote the book, Brenda Shaw, who ended up marrying a Scottish guy and moving to Scotland. She was a botanist or something. Wrote these family history books. And she was like, you know, it could have been that he had gotten a girl pregnant and they adopted the child into the family, because Artson is not a name. And when they migrated north, Arthur was there, and it was my ancestor, Americus Vespucius Pratt, was there, and he was yellow. He was liverish. He had been bitten by, our story is that he was bitten by a tsetse fly, and it caused some kind of liver issue, so they drummed him out. And that's why we're here, because he didn't get killed in the Civil War. But that was Arthur's son, Americus Vespucius, who gave, I think, was William Fremont Pratt's father, who was by then an established farmer in the area. So he came home at lunch with his son Donald from a previous marriage, and they ate my grandmother Laura's pie with no sugar, and she hadn't tasted it yet because she had set it in front of them and was waiting, to eat until they went back to work. And he said, "That's very good, Laura." And then they left. And then after she cleaned up and everything, she sat down to have a piece of pie, and it was sour because there was no sugar in it. And she was like, "Oh my goodness." But her father never said anything. He was so kind to her. And that's how my family is. And when I meet people who I think are kind and then they're not, I get shocked. Because I'm like, that's not how my family is. And they tend to project their problems, their issues onto me. Like, "What are you doing? Why are you looking at me that way? Are you going to yell at me?" And I'm like, "No, have you been yelled at in the past?" and I understand that everyone has issues. I do too, obviously. But my gosh, just be kind to each other as much as you can. And if you can't, keep your mouth shut, because I don't want to hear it. Anyway, my son's girlfriend gave me these measuring cups. They're little kitties. And I had this golf ball that it fell out of the sky and bounced off the roof of this Sunoco down on 202. And me and Robert was sitting in the car eating breakfast sandwiches or something. And this golf ball came sailing out of the sky. Boink, 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 bouncing in the parking lot. And I'm like, "Robert!" And he goes, "Jennifer, there's a golf course behind us." I'm like, "Oh." So, but I had to get up and save it. And look, it says 22, and 1111 equals 22. That's all I know. It's a golf ball. And it's mine. I found it fair and square. Anyway, I have to go on Nextdoor or something to see if somebody will come get half this pie, because there's no way I'm going to eat a whole banana cream pie by myself. And it's pretty good. It's not that sweet. And I probably overcooked my custard a little bit. I strained it, but, live and learn. I wasn't paying attention. I was trying to do too much at once, but I got it done. And now my lower back is killing me. I better go walk around today and stretch it out. Have a good day. Keep calm. Lobster on, y'all.